What's going on, YouTube? So for the longest time, 3 Japanese competitors have dominated the compact crossover segment: RAV4, CR-V, and this Nissan Rogue. That's why, even though this is on its last model year, it's still important for us to come out and review the latest 2020 version. Of course, we do want to especially thank our friends at Gates Nissan in Richmond, Kentucky for giving us access to this loaded Rogue. And if you're in the market for any new Nissan, make sure you stop by their dealership or visit them via their website, which we provided a link to in the video description. So with a new Rogue on the horizon, let's see if the current model is still worth a look. So starting things off with the exterior, as you would expect, there haven't been any major changes this year. That means it continues to have the signature V-motion grille. But do be aware that for 2020, the Midnight Edition model has been dropped, so all models will come finished in this chrome. As far as the headlights, they are usually halogens, except on the loaded SL with premium package like we have here. These are fully LED, to match with the LED daytime running lights that they all have. Finally, you will find fog lights on the SL. As far as the side and back, again there are no differences to the styling itself, so it carries over with the chrome accent across the rear and the LED accented taillights. Along the bottom, you have a single exhaust pipe hidden behind the bumper. But overall, Nissan has managed to keep the Rogue looking pretty fresh, thanks to frequent updates over the years. Now the wheels also add a bit of pizzazz to the design, since they are 19 inches with a high contrast design here on the SL. Otherwise, the other 2 trims come equipped with the same 17-inch outlet. Next up, we have the mirrors, which are always body colored, though you won't get heating on the S. Blind spot monitoring, though, is surprisingly included across the board. And then as far as all the other safety systems, they too are mostly included across every single trim. Auto emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane keeping assist, and auto high beam headlights are all on board. And then rear auto braking and the Pro Pilot Assist system is included as you work your way up to the SL. These systems keep the Rogue as one of the class leaders in terms of safety. But anyways guys, that hits all the details on the outside. So now let's move inside before going on a drive. So every version of the 2020 Rogue will come with this key fob. However, you will have to get at least the SV trim to get intelligent entry, as well as this remote start system. Now getting inside the vehicle itself, super simple. There is not a sensor behind the handle, so what you have to do is just press the little black button. Alright, so looking inside our 2020 Nissan Rogue, there are really no meaningful changes for 2020 as far as the design, which is expected since this is probably the last model year of this generation. Now as far as your interior color and material options, you will notice they mostly carry over this year. However, we have lost one option. So what you'll be looking at is a cloth interior on the S and SV, offered in charcoal or almond colors. And then when you go up for the SL, that's where you'll get this leather seating, also offered in charcoal or almond colors. Now what we've lost this year though is the special tan interior, since the Platinum Reserve interior package is no longer offered on the Rogue. Now turning over here to your door trim, it is very nicely appointed. You do have leather covering the entire armrest with a color contrast stitching. It is nicely padded up here on the top as well. And we do have a faux carbon fiber trim through here. Now as far as your windows, they're only one touch automatic for the driver's window. And you will find 2-person memory seating on the SL trim or optional on the SV. Now checking out the seat here, it is 8-way power adjusting on both the SV and the SL, or 6-way manual on the S. And then, like I was already saying, we do have real leather seating here on the SL Rogue. I very much like the way that this seat is designed. It has a nice look to it, especially with the perforation, and it feels very premium. Now, like I was already saying, there's no real changes to the cabin as far as materials or design are concerned. So you'll continue to find a soft touch plastic across your upper dash here. And then dropping down here to the middle portion, you'll find this very nice leatherette material with a stitching detail. Nissan has also nicely included this leatherette material down here where your knees would touch with that same stitching, and this is included on the SL trim level. And everything else does fit together very well. Now to start the Rogue, just press the button. When you press it, you're going to find this 7-inch display fire up on all but the very base S model, which is going to come with a 5-inch display. Gauges here, these are the older style Nissan gauges, but they still have a clean and classy look to them. They're mostly analog, but we do have a large 4.2-inch multi-function display in the middle, and it can cycle through all the typical expected things, including for your safety systems, which are standard across almost every single road. Now coming back to the steering wheel, we do have electric power assisted steering, and Nissan does include a flat bottom steering wheel across all models, regardless of which one you choose, but it will only be leather wrapped on the SL or the SV with premium package. As far as the steering wheel itself, it is manually tilt and telescoping, but you'll notice right over here, we actually do have heating here on the SL. Alright, now moving on to interior storage. Just like most compact crossovers, the Rogue does deliver more storage than you would expect in a vehicle this size. So we'll start out with our center console, which we'll go ahead and say is actually very classy and nice looking, very nicely padded as well. And underneath that we do have a really nicely sized center console here. It does have a pad down at the bottom, as well as a charging USB port and a 12-volt outlet. We got another little storage cubby right there, 2 big cup holders, and then up here in the front we have another nicely sized area. It has a grippy texture, so it can hold your phone into place. We got another USB, another 12-volt outlet, and aux jack. Now, as far as the shifter here, this is just a traditional shifter, so nothing complicated here. You can bump over here to the left to shift manually through simulated gear, since this does have a CVT. And then when you go into reverse, you will find the around view monitor, which is standard on the SL only. As you can see, we do have both our 360 view as well as our traditional view with active trajectory. We also have moving object detection, so we have sensors on all 4 sides. And the mirrors do tilt down when in reverse to help you see the parking lines better. Do also want to point out our electronic parking brake and auto brake hold feature up in front of that. That's included on the upper end Rogues. Alright, now rolling back here to our buttons back here that are passed up. This is our 2-stage heated seats. They're actually included on both the SV and the SL as standard equipment. And the same goes for our dual zone automatic climate control setup. That's also included on both SV and SL. So only the base model will have a manual setup. And as you can see, very nice, very simple to use. You just have 2 knobs. You can adjust your fan speeds right here. And then you adjust your zones right here. So you don't have to go inside this display to locate any of the controls for the climate control, which I do like. Alrighty, and now that brings us here to our audio system. So the SL is going to come standard with a 9-speaker Bose sound system compared to the 4 speakers on the S or the 6 speakers on the SV. So we'll go ahead and take a sample of this upgraded sound system. Well, I recognize that was a pretty lame audio sample there, but I can attest that this is an excellent sounding sound system and definitely one of the better types of sound systems offered in this class of vehicle. Alright, so now we're here at the NissanConnect system. I'm just going to look at this real fast here since it hasn't really changed this year, and we do have a dedicated tech help video linked in the description if you want to get a real detailed look at the system. But just kind of hitting on the highlights here, we do have a 7-inch display. We've got shortcut buttons along the side, of course, to make things easier. So you can press this button and it will take you to a home screen. Now Nissan kind of sets it up like an Android phone, so you can put little apps, you can also put widgets, and then you've got your shortcuts along the bottom. So it's actually very simple and easy to use. We can click on the map here. We do have integrated navigation here on the SL only. It is available as an option though on the SV. Now if you don't want to use that though, you do still have both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay both on board, so you can use Apple Maps or Google Maps if you prefer to do that. Now heading on up from that, you will find an auto dimming mirror with 3 HomeLink universal remotes here on the SL. We also have a very nice feature here on this particular model, which is our power panoramic moonroof. So as you can see with the power sunshade that goes all the way back there to our rear passengers. And this front panel does open up completely to give you plenty of air. Now this is available as an option on both the SL and the SV via the premium package, and then for the SV the sun and sound package, I believe. And then we do have a wind buffer up there as well. But overall, the cabin of the 2020 Rogue continues to be a pretty nice place to spend time. Like I've already said, this is pretty much its last model year, likely. You know, it's the end of the production run. But I'm really impressed by how well it's held up in here. It's still very much a class competitive space and has plenty of luxury and amenities that you expect to see. When you open the door, the seat will move back to help with easier entry and exit. Well, that does it for the outside, inside. Well, that does it for the inside, so now I'll go ahead and hand it off to Mason to check out all the back areas.
Alrighty, so heading around to the back seats of the 2020 Rogue, you are going to find a good amount of space. You'll find 38 inches of rear legroom and 39 inches of rear headroom, which does place it a little bit behind the Honda CR-V, but right on point with the Toyota RAV4. Now turning over to the door trim on this fully loaded model, it is very nice. So we do have a leather wrapping across the entire bottom portion with stitching. The upper portion is hard touch. However, you do have a power window, and down below that you do also have some bottle storage. Now here in the center, we do have some vents on the fully loaded SL model. However, you will not find any outlets or anything like that. And here in the center, we do also have a fold-down armrest. It is a little bit hard to do with one hand, but you just have to pull the strap, and then it does fold down to give you 2 cup holders in the middle. Now up top, we do have one of my favorite features about the Rogue, and that's this gigantic moonroof. It really helps air out the cabin. And off to the side, we do have some lighting, as well as an assist grip. And like I was mentioning, this is on par for most in the class. So behind rear seating position, I have about 4 to 5 inches of rear leg room, and my feet do not have any issue sliding up under the seat, so everyone's going to be very comfortable back here. Now heading around to the tailgate, it is hands-free power on the SV and SL trims, so all you have to do is wave your foot under the bumper to open it. Now once inside the Rogue's trunk, you are going to find a good amount of space for its class. You'll find 32 cubic feet of space behind the second row seats, and that expands to 70 cubic feet if you fold them. Now that is right on par with a lot of the rivals. It is a little bit smaller than the CR-V. Now as far as how it's finished back here, it is finished very nicely. So you do have a carpeted floorboard, and you will notice one of Nissan's exclusive features, and that's the divide and hide cargo system. So as you can see, we've created a shelf here. We put a camera bag and stuff up here, and then you also have room underneath for different items. And there are several different configurations that you can use, so I'm just going to insert a video of showing you all the different configurations. Now as far as other finishing touches, you do have a 12-volt power outlet, and underneath the floor here we do have a little bit more storage area. Now over here in the passenger seat, it is power adjusting on this SL trim. And in front of the passenger, you do have nice materials, as well as a good sized glove box. It is dampened, and it is also surprisingly large. It goes back quite a distance. Now up top, we do have a sun visor with a mirror and light. It does detach, and it also extends. But anyway, guys, that sums up all of the features of the rear of the Rogue. So now let's go ahead and take it out on the road and see how it performs against its rivals like the Toyota RAV4.
Alrighty, so let's go into the powertrain section. Now, most things have not really changed this year. However, there's one change worth noting, and that's that the Rogue Hybrid has been discontinued, so that's sold in very, very small numbers anyways. I don't think I ever actually saw one in person.
No.
That being said, it's been discontinued, so you're always going to have this powertrain. This powertrain is the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine, naturally aspirated, produces 170 horsepower and 175 pound-feet of torque, and it is paired with a continuously variable transmission, and power is put to the ground via the front wheels or optional all-wheel drive across all 3 trim levels. Now as far as your fuel economy, that's always been one of the strong suits of this generation of the Rogue. It continues to be on the upper end of the class, so you'll be looking at 26 city, 33 highway, 29 combined with front wheel drive, and 25 city, 32 highway, 27 combined with the all-wheel drive system. But anyways, that's enough of the specs. Let's go ahead and take it out on the road and see how it performs. Alright, so first taking off in the 2020 Nissan Rogue. Power is decent. It's certainly not class leading or anything like that, but it feels like it comes on reasonably well. It's a little light on torque, so you will have to kind of rev it out. That being said, it seemed like the CVT did a pretty good job of keeping it in its power band and just getting it up to speed as quickly as possible. CVT, it does kind of have that D-step logic software on recent Nissan, so it does kind of simulate gear changes. And on some of them, it actually has a little bit of a feel to it when it drops down.
You know, but cruising here at 60 miles an hour, you know, this is where this car really shines. I mean, this Rogue is made to be a family vehicle that just hauls you and your family comfortably, and this car really does that well. The seats are super comfortable. There's a lot of space in here. I'm not noticing any wind or road noise, and it really just nails that aspect of the driving dynamics perfectly.
Now, the other thing I want to talk about is the steering. Right at the low speeds like we're going right now, the steering is very lightweight, especially at parking lot speeds, incredibly lightweight. So that makes maneuvering around pretty easy. Once you get going though, Nissan does firm things up nicely, so it becomes a lot stiffer. Now it doesn't really have too much feel or anything like that, so it is pretty numb, but like I said, it just makes things a lot more natural. The way that it firms up once you get moving, that way you do still have a pretty good sense of where the wheels are placed and whatnot. But overall, at the end of the day, the 2020 Rogue does what it needs to do. This is a family, comfort-oriented crossover. And I think it really nails the aspect of being comfortable. You know, this is by no means a sporty vehicle, so it's not like, you know, something that is going to be a thrill to drive. It's not something that really stands out in that regard, but most things in this class don't. So if you're not a driving enthusiast and care about kind of having like sportier dynamics or something like that, you know, overall there's no reason why the Rogue would not be a good fit for you and your family.
Alrighty, and now let's go ahead and discuss the pricing for this 2020 Rogue. Now you will find very competitive pricing with the rest of the class. So for the base model, these are front wheel drive, keep that in mind. For the base S, that comes in at $25,200, and that is a price rise of $500 over the 2019 model, and that is pretty much across the board, $500 increase. Now if you want the SV, that's going to be $26,620, and then if you want the top of the line SL, which is what we have, that's going to be $31,590. Now if you want all-wheel drive, that's going to be a $1,350 option. Now we have selected the all-wheel drive, and we also have a few different option packages on this one. So we have splash guards for $170, the premium paint for $395, floor mats with cargo area protector for $290, as well as the big ticket item on the SL, which is the premium package, and that's going to be $1,820. And then finally, when we add in the destination charge of $1,045, this particular model as equipped comes in at $36,660, which is pretty much top dollar for the Rogue lineup, and it is very much competitive with the rivals, if not a little bit cheaper than some of the newer options like the RAV4.
Well guys, hope you enjoyed watching this in-depth look at the 2020 Nissan Rogue SL. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.